Foo Fighters are back! Yeah! I thought it would be a good idea to make a history of the band documentary just for the hardcore fans, you know? Not that it was going to be some big movie. I thought, like, well, let's do this now so that we can fit it into 2 hours, you know? And then let's also do a documentary where we film the making of the record, because we made the album to tape with no computers, just like in the good old days. And there's some craft to doing that, you know? Because not many people know what it's like to take a piece of tape, put the head down, and edit with a wax pencil and a razor blade and splicing tape, and, you know, to make records like we used to make records. So I thought that'd be interesting for musicians and maybe kids that only know how to use computers. And then the more I thought about it, I thought, well, wait a minute, I guess, you know, if we're making the record with Butch and we're doing it in the garage and all of this time that's gone by and all of these things we've accomplished, there's some sort of story to that, I suppose. And then that's when someone brought up the idea of putting the two together and turning it into like a movie.
The story of the Foo Fighters really begins with Dave's involvement with Nirvana. If you were to script out a movie, a fictional movie, it's kind of this story, you'd say, okay, it's about a guy who's in a huge rock band and it meets this tragic end, and he's at a crossroads and needs to decide what he's going to do in his life. I mean, and that's really where the story of the Foo Fighters begins. You know, after the death of Kurt Cobain, Dave had an opportunity to play drums for Tom Petty and continue as a drummer in other bands, and he had to make that tough decision.
Well, I think everybody wanted James because his movies focus on people. His perspective or his direction with this movie was not so much musical as it was to focus on the relationships between the five of us, you know.
I got a call that Nigel Sinclair wanted to meet with me. He met with me and he says, "What do you want to do next?" I said, "I understand that you guys do music documentaries." He's like, "Yeah, you like the Foo Fighters?" I said, "I love the Foo Fighters." He says, "Well, we've got this project. I want you to meet with Dave Grohl." I was surprised because I had interviewed to direct the Dixie Chicks documentary a couple years back that Barbara Koppel directed. I'd met with their management a few times, and I didn't get the job.
Oh, Roy, he was supposed to do the Dixie Chicks one. They said,
Had we known that, we never would have hired him.
Yeah, James!
We had an opportunity to get to know each other a little bit before the filming began, so there was a bit of a comfort level. And then when it came time to do the interviews, I was able to do sit-down one-on-one interviews with each one of the band members present and past.
It really kind of got you to really tell some real truths, you know? Stuff that you might not have felt. You know, it's really easy when you do interviews all day long to be kind of political about things and have your kind of sort of good set answers and, you know, gloss over things, as Dave was saying earlier, and, you know, have a good sort of easy way out statement. You get the question answered, but you don't really give too much away. And when you're sitting there being interrogated for 4 hours, you just slip.
Premiere at South by Southwest was awesome because, well, selfishly, I got to see the movie on a big screen and with a huge audience.
We were driving up the street in our white limousine. Band logo on the side, bunch of dorks. Come up the street and I see this big, long line. And we were coming around the block and I thought, oh, someone else has a show tonight. And then I looked and the marquee said Foo Fighters. I'm like, holy
wow, that's for us?
that's ours?
We do a show and have a reasonable idea of how many people are going to come to the show, but a movie's entirely different.
That was the first time, and probably the only time that we're going to experience that, where you walk into this beautiful old theater and there's all these people, and it's not just, you know, a bunch of music critics or whatever. It's real people.
We don't really carry ourselves like we're the Foo Fighters, the greatest rock band in the world. We're just not like that, you know? When we go up on stage to play a gig, I cross my fingers and hope that we have a good gig, because I want to be good so that people have a good time, you know? And it's the same, I think there is some, like, humility or modesty in this band where we just don't function like Oasis, you know? It just doesn't work that way for us. And it's good.
Kind of wish I did. I wish I had those. I wish I felt that good about myself.
Yeah. But it's, you know, I honestly think it's one of the reasons why we're still here is because we're trying. We're actually trying to do the right thing and be good at what we do. We don't really just sort of like rest on the names of Foo Fighters. We have a lot of history together. We've been through a lot of shit. And I think what's kept us here is the relationships. And it's the same thing when you see a bunch of people in a movie theater for your documentary. It's flattering. It's like, holy shit. And then they're laughing and like clapping and roaring, and like it's genuinely flattering.